Hi guys, Mollusk here, and this is going to be a quick, here's my initial thoughts on the new Malifaux Masters. Just to get things clear from the start, I'm not some kind of savant prophet with an encyclopedic knowledge of all the models and combinations in Malifaux. To be honest guys, I'm not even very good at this game. But I thought it'd be fun to talk through my opinions, and perhaps even possibly get some discussion going. You know, in that comment section down there, you might have noticed it. I'd be really interested in hearing, or reading I guess, your thoughts if you care to share them. So let's kick things off with Titania, Queen of the Fairies, and shameless Shakespearean reference. And by the way, I love that Weird do this. Parodies of the real world or culture references in wargames is just an excellent way of expanding your general knowledge, and I really enjoy it. So again, if you see any references or get any that I've missed, yeah, please let me know in the comments. In my opinion, she's got one of the better backgrounds of the new Masters. Way back when she was Queen of Malifaux, whatever that actually means, and made a deal with the Grave Spirit, it seems, to get rid of the old tyrants. This didn't go down too well among some of her courtiers, so they trapped her under the ruins of Nythera, I think that's called, and she's been sitting around playing solitaire and leeching life energy from the Badlands ever since. And it seems this summer some jokers pressed the big red button that says "Do not press" and let her out. Right, let's get into this. So Titania is decent defensively. Her defense is her weaker point. Good number of wounds for a master. 5's a decent walk, and a charging threat range of 9 is again decent for what she needs to do. She is undead and fey, and I don't really know if there are any specific Neverborn synergies for that right now, but at least she doesn't care about terrifying living. And a 4 stones cache is very nice indeed. So this lass is billed as the most durable Neverborn master and impossible to wound. Seems to be a big part of that. For any of us Neverborn players who have used Teddy, it's not really something to write home about. But defense 5 is a lot better than defense 3, I guess. She's not going to stand up to some dedicated min damage 3 and 4, but it's going to thwart those mid-range damage dealers somewhat. So not bad, not bad. Flight, great, although I guess it makes Wings of Darkness less efficient. And now we get to the abilities that are rather more about what this girl is about. Thirsty Roots means that enemies in base contact with our scheme markers have to make a fairly tricky willpower duel or suffer 2 damage that can't be reduced. So no armour or riders, entropy shield thing or whatever they have. So yeah, okay, not bad. The willpower duel is going to be useful for things like Teddies and Sorrows and Widow Weaver. And plinking 2 damage is fairly nice. Let's bear this in mind for later. Rejoice and Rebirth basically gives Titania a heal. She heals 2 damage when other models put scheme markers down. Doesn't have to be Neverborn or her own team. So in marker heavy pools or against masters that really utilise scheme markers like Colette or Nelly, this is going to start feeding into making her pretty tough. Back of the card we've got 2 attack actions which give her an engagement range of 2, as any master worth their salt should have. First up, let's talk about our Wicked Silence. It's got a good accuracy, and if you hit, you place a scheme marker in base contact with an enemy model, and they suffer 2 damage, with a double mask trigger to push away 4 inches, on success. At first I wasn't too impressed with this, but it is against willpower, so synergizes with models that would otherwise go well with Pandora, and it is always nice to be able to hit something on willpower because of things like Skeeters or stuff like that. I guess this isn't anything particularly special against Incorporeal, but you know, it's nice to have. But I think there is a bit of a utility with this action. So you're dropping a scheme marker, which is either contributing to scoring your schemes or strategies. You can do an engagement, and you're damaging an enemy at the same time, so that's all good. It's a bit like a little bit less reliable Don't Mind Me. And the push trigger is a really nice touch, I think, because you can do this, drop your scheme marker, and get out of engagement all in the same action, and run off and do other things. And now your opponent's left with a bit of a decision to make. Well, first they take their willpower duel, which could mean more damage, and again thinking of those Teddies and Sorrows, and I'm sure there are other things. But now they have to decide whether or not they're going to ignore the scheme marker and go chase you, therefore potentially leaving the scheme marker around for you to get VP off of, or at least use for Titania's other actions, or they've got to spend an action picking it up. And so what you did was effectively give them slow, which is a pretty good condition, which in this case can't be removed. So yeah, I think there's things to play with here. Next attack is the Bloody Command. On defense this time, which is again good to have that option of defense or willpower targeting. A nice accurate 6. It's range or melee, so it can shoot into combat without randomizing and doesn't care about cover because there's no gun symbol. So the only thing it worries about is things like counterspell or other things of that nature that affect casting, which are fairly rare. It's got a modest damage track, but some really great utility in the triggers. Built in, we've got Into Thorns, basically allowing those ski markers you've been beating out of people, you can cash them in to make your damage a bit better. Potentially going to a 4-5-6 damage track like a mature Nephilim, which is pretty nice, although I don't suspect you'll be doing that very often, and it's probably more reasonable to use just the one marker, given how useful they are to have lying around. On a Crow, you can trigger My Loyal Subjects and get a heal on another friendly model within 4 inches. And having access to healing is just really good. I really miss it with my Nephilim. It's not healing tons, I mean you're probably going to do 2, and it's not hugely reliable as your opponent's resisting you, but we're Neverborn, we're fragile, we should take what we can get. And I'm sure Stitch Together or Teddy or Mature or Nikima would all be quite grateful to receive it, I'm sure. On a Ram we have Deal with him. So do no damage, but make another model within 8 inches and line of sight the target, push into base contact, and take a 1 melee action or 1 engagement action. And this is pretty darn good, as Neverborn beat sticks tend to hit really hard but not take it so well in return, and so getting into combat as quickly as possible before getting shot to pieces is the name of the game. So again, Teddy, Nikima, Mature would all love to push 8 inches and get a free attack followed by activating and then flurrying. So rather than doing 2, 3, 4 damage, you've pretty likely killed a model and got your beta 8 inches upfield. And if you've ever played Perdita, you know that 8 inches is a long way. Going into the tactical actions, 2 0 actions, very nice. A New Harvest, I don't know, but I suspect is the one that's going to be used more often. Needs a 7 to cast, and makes enemy models within a pole 6 take a willpower duel again, or have a ski marker placed in contact with them. So that's ski markers dropped at range for no AP. The more models you do it on the better, but with flight, and it looks like Titania's intended to play up in the midfield. You should be able to find a couple of models at least to do this on. So in all likelihood you'll probably only get 1 marker out of this if you're lucky, but if you've got stuff to capitalise on those willpower duels, great, and at least it's draining opponent's hand. Note that crows in the duel increase the difficulty of the willpower duel, and likely up to a 13, which is again starting to get into the range where people are going to fail that. And then they get dinked for damage when they activate, or then she attacks to bloody command them into the thorns, or the performer makes it explode, etc, etc. Just thought, I guess Aeonus with his scheme marker shifting shenanigans would be quite interesting to have a look at. But yeah, okay, on to the next one. The Queen has risen, again needs a 7, and again has a range of 6. And I'm not sure how I feel about this one, so discard up to 3 markers within 6 inches, and push 1 friendly model 2 inches for every marker you discarded. So on the one hand that's great for removing enemy markers, which in faction Neverborn really struggle to do, I think. I'm not sure if anybody else has something to remove markers quite as easily as that in Neverborn. And from playing marionettes I can tell you that 2 inches of pushing, again for pretty much, well, for no AP cost, though it is a decent card, can be pretty damn useful. Not sure about discarding the 3 to get the maximum of 6 inches, because it's kind of like using 3 AP to go 6 inches if you're discarding your own markers, but if you're discarding enemy markers, great. Woo, have a field day. So yeah, situationally good, and perhaps better than I think given the focus on ski markers from these Wave 4 releases so far. Might also be worth noting that you can beat ski markers out of a model with Wicked Silence and then use the Queen has risen, if you've really got to get that other model moving rapidly. As for upgrades, the traditional ones like Fear's Given Form I reckon could be okay if she's gonna have to be up there getting stuck in. It seems like lurking behind the front lines would be a better place for her, but it's a decent upgrade, and it doesn't look like she needs to be mollycoddled by other protective models. Aether Connection, obviously, I think will be a big one if she's supposed to be this survivable master. Never waste your time on Stone of Echoes and Pact. And Wings of Darkness loses a bit of its greatness, as I said, but it's always nice to be able to draw that extra card. I suspect you'll want that Soulstone for other things though. We've been given these little teasers about her specific upgrades. There's Behold My Glory, which seems to operate a bit like Barbaros's challenge, forcing the enemy to discard 2 cards not to attack her. Not sure. I mean, if there's more to that, then great. It's going to deter pot shots, but otherwise... I mean, if she's running up there with Nekima in a turf war situation, yeah, maybe that'll work. An Audience with the Queen basically gives her something akin to Lilith's Tangle Shadows, which is just a game-winning ability. She's got Forest Claims All, which allows her to turn corpse and scrap markers into her own scheme markers, which could be excellent against declared resurrectionists, or certain Arcanist and Guild builds, or Outcast, I guess. And then she's got the Queen's Champion, which sounds rather similar to Wong's glowy thing, in that it basically sounds like it allows her to choose a model and give it some significant buffing. So in summary, she looks pretty interesting. The scheme marker heavy theme is a bit different. She doesn't look particularly over the top, although some of those upgrades might change that, and I'm sure no one will be shocked to find that I reckon she'll be fairly good choice in scheme marker heavy missions. I reckon she'll synergise fairly well with Teddy's and Sorrows, and the Widow Weaver regarding willpower jewels. McTavish Doppelganger Performer will be fairly nasty. Double threat of getting seduction for all those negative flips using the scheme markers. Double threat of the shooting without randomising and ignoring cover. And McTavish loves to have scheme markers of 2 gobble down. Movement tricks for getting those beaters. Nekima, Mature, Teddy, Illuminated, even Young Nephilim. Upfielding into combat or pushing these little scheme markers like Teratots out of engagement to go do their things. For 4 stones, you can have some gups behind her, leaping and dropping 2 scheme markers, healing her 4 damage a turn. Or Mysterious Effigy to help her get out of trouble with Accelerate. And actually, that disguised cheating would be quite interesting, as her attacks aren't major in terms of damage, but if they don't know what suit you're going for, it could make for some quite hard decisions. Guess we'll have to see what her other models bring to the table, but I'd be surprised if there wasn't some other ways of dropping scheme markers, as I suspect she would work well with some big hitters, but also with a couple of scheme runners just adding to that kind of saturation effect. Aislinn seems to be a henchman of some kind, perhaps. He's apparently got strong ranged casting and anti-casting, which actually does sound like that could be pretty useful. And her totem's a bit weird looking snake that seems to allow you to re-summon friendly minions that die, which seems to be these things. So yeah, not sure if I'm going to pick her up. She's definitely got potential to be the third Neverborn master in my repertoire. Models and her books look pretty good. I mean, I'm actually not so keen on what I can see of her posing. And the others do look a bit elfy for my tastes. And background-wise, she seems to be a bit opposed to the Nephilim, and that's just not cool. But I guess we'll have to see. Maybe I'll get a proxy game in with her when the rules come out. Anyway, that was my first impression, and I look forward to hearing your own. If you have any to share, take care.